Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My conversation this week is with Heidi Clemons, an accredited financial counselor. As an AFC, Heidi coaches, counsels, and educates people how to manage their expectations about money by empowering them to create personal financial goals and teaching them how to take control of their financial lives. Through analyzing their budget, money habits, and behaviors, clients often make more than just financial changes when they work with Heidi. So in this conversation, Heidi and I explore the unique role that AFCs play in the financial services ecosystem, particularly how they complement the work of CFPs and other financial professionals. Heidi shares powerful stories about helping couples develop healthier money conversations and how addressing financial behaviors and habits creates a strong foundation for long-term financial wellness. What I found especially valuable about our discussion was Heidi's insights on building collaborative referral networks between different financial professionals. She explains how AFCs can help address the behavioral aspects of finance that often prevent clients from successfully implementing the plans created by their financial advisors, creating a win-win situation for both professionals and clients. So if you're looking to expand your professional network or better serve clients who struggle with financial behaviors, this episode offers practical strategies for collaboration that can elevate your practice. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right. Heidi, thank you so much for joining me on the Finance Marketing Podcast today. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I would love to start if you could just give us a little overview of who you are and what it is you do and maybe how you found yourself in this world.
Yeah, so in 2016, I started teaching classes for financial counseling. I'm a military spouse, so we were stationed in Germany, and I saw these books on the shelf and an office, and I was like, can I teach that? And they said yes, so I started teaching that, and someone walked in and said, you're really good at this. Have you ever thought about doing this for a job? Did you know the military pays for it? And I was like, I had no idea. I didn't have any financial problems. My husband and I were debt free. We didn't have any need for a financial counselor. I didn't even know it existed as a resource in the military. And so she told me about the scholarship that was available through FINRA. So I applied for the FINRA Foundation Fellowship Scholarship for military spouses, and I was accepted. So that's how I kind of got started. And I finished all of my credentialing and all of that other stuff through COVID. And then I went off to my first place to go work, and it was I was going I was moving, and my husband was, and my kids were staying back behind, and I figured it out, and I just absolutely fell in love with it, and moved a couple different times within that organization, and then got a really good opportunity to be in my own community and serve my own community, where the service members were finding me in the community, and it was a symbiotic relationship. They would see me out at the community doing these events, and then they would come in my office, and then they would catch up with me in between when I was out doing my own shopping and stuff. But I just absolutely loved it. And then we moved again, and now we are living in Hawaii, and I decided that I'd start my own private practice doing something similar. And I have found it to be really, really exciting, because now that I'm starting my own private practice, I get to do things a little bit of how I want. So now, as an accredited financial counselor, I do the counseling piece of it, but I've also integrated the coaching and the education piece of it. And I'm also doing the therapy side of it, the financial therapy side of things as well. So when people are like, what do you do? I'm like, I am a financial coach, counselor, educator, and a financial therapist. Integrated all into one little package called Heidi. And it's fun because it keeps everything interesting, but it also keeps me in all the spaces that I find really important, with helping people where they are, educating, providing some subject matter experts oversight, or not oversight, subject matter expert experience to the military community, also serving the military community, but also having my own private practice so I can serve people outside of the military as well.
I love this so much. And yeah, I love that it's all of these things that you do to help people with their money that no other financial professional does. And so I'm excited to dive into um, how an AFC professional kind of fits into this center of influence world with all these other financial professionals, and how AFCs can be really strong referral partners for, back and forth between other financial professionals. So if we can get started, can you take us down to the basics? Like, what is the AFC? Is designation the right word, or certification?
Certification.
Certification.
Designation. S. So in order to become an AFC, we have to have 1,000 hours of experience, whether we're working with a counselor or working as a counselor space, providing education, creating curriculum. It has to be in we have to have a supervisor that's helping us through that, a mentor, that sort of a thing, to get those hours so that we can get them verified. We have to take an exam. It's pretty rigorous. So it's an exam that tests us on how we're dealing with our clients, setting up the space for our clients, how we view them, how we help them, along with the financial part of things, right? It's the emotional side of things, the behaviors, the habits, that sort of a thing, building them their foundation. So it's not just on the financial knowledge, but also setting up the situation and the scenario, the environment for them in a place that's safe for them to be able to share. And then after our exam, so we have to pass our exam. And then when we have our 1,000 hours, we have our exam done, then we are also bound by ethics. So ethics are part of what we're doing. We're a fiduciary, so our clients are in our best interest. It's important that we're serving our clients. We don't sell investment products. We don't sell any sort of products, insurance, or anything like that. We really stick to the fact that we're here to serve our clients in their best interest. When we're working with others, professionals, our role is integral, whether we're helping to get our clients prepared for that professional, or whether we're working simultaneous with them, or we're working after the fact. It really depends on where we come into play, on how we're helping our clients and our mutual clients. But at the end of the day, it's really so that they can be the most successful in their own financial journey and what their goals and their journeys are.
Can you paint me a picture? Maybe give me an example of work that you've done with a client recently. Like, what does your relationship with them look like? What are some things that you talk about in your meetings with them?
Oh, this is a really good example. I just had a young couple. They're looking to get engaged, and she came very, very excited to the first session. She's the one that set it up, and she came very excited, and she's like, "I'm super excited. I want to talk about money." And he's like, "Yeah, I know we need to do this because we want to get married, but I'm not really sure." And we worked through that. I sent them some homework back after our session and that sort of a thing. She completed the homework. He was like, "Oh, I thought it was just for just an idea of something to do." So we came back for our session 2, and he actually set it up the second time, the timing and everything like that, which was good. And I said, so he's like, "I didn't do the homework." And I said, I didn't I didn't say anything. He's like, "I know, I thought it was just for me to look at." He's like, "I did it, but I just didn't give it back to you." So it was really fun though, because now he has gone through a lot of that process of facing his own money fears, his own money thoughts, and things like that. And so when we sat down, we actually worked on money habitudes together. And so they each had a deck of cards, and we went through the money habitudes, and the conversations that we had were so, so great for them, that they're like, oh, this is why she does this, and this is why he does that, and this is what we should
Mm.
do moving forward. And one of the things was about negotiations. Who likes to negotiate? And he said, absolutely not. And she was like, I do, I do. And they told me the story of what had happened, and it was over $3, but he didn't want to take something back to the store, and she wanted him to, and then he ended up trying. It was a drink, and he tried it, he didn't like it, and so now it's sitting on his desk, and she's like, you should have just let me do it. And so but we're talking about that from, this one situation, it just moves forward that as they're going forward in their money conversations, if they need to negotiate things like insurance in the future, mortgage stuff, cars, things like that, any kinds of things that they're going to have to negotiate financially in the future,
Mm.
she might be a better fit at it because she enjoys it. It doesn't stress her out. Whereas him, it really stresses him out. So through
Mm.
that, just one little conversation, they were very enlightened that
Mhm.
how it's going to impact a lot of other their financial decisions going forward as well.
And oh, go ahead.
No, 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 it's okay.
I was just going to say, I think it's just so important for people to like get down to this deep level of what's driving their decisions and how that interacts with what's driving their spouse's money decisions and things like that. And I
Right.
mean, like you said, I mean, this is going to impact, when they get a mortgage down the road, it's going to impact how much they're saving for retirement. It's going to impact all of these things. How great for this couple to start when they're so early.
Yeah, and they realized too that she's an only child.
Mm.
He's the youngest of five siblings.
Mhm.
And through a lot of the other conversations that we had, her drive, and she's a huge saver. He has a little bit of debt. He's a huge, huge saver. She's a huge, huge saver. But they realized what was driving both of those, a lot of their other
Mhm.
decisions, and
Mhm.
that as they're bringing their, and I would say as they're bringing their in the Navy, so as they're bringing their boats closer,
Mhm.
that to marriage, right, and they're going to be going into this marriage together, learning how that those things that she's had as an only child and her money scripts and her money ideas and that sort of a thing and how she looks at things is very different than how he does growing up, where he was the youngest of five and didn't have as much, and his parents didn't have as much, and
Mm.
how that impacts his financial decisions, both from the beginning and later on as well, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not just this one or that one, but it's even, she has no debt besides a car. He has, he's bringing some credit card debt, and how he even got to that point. So for them to understand at such a foundation, I'm so excited for them, because like to understand this at a foundation, they're going to need, and they're already at a point where they could use another professional
Right.
in their courts, like when they have taxes, right? Because they're going to
Right.
have a good income, that they're going to have tax questions that are going to be outside of what I can help them with, where they're going to need a great professional to help them. If they're going to, if they move around, that sort of a thing, where they want to live, that might impact where they live. If they want to move overseas, as civilians, they want to move overseas, that's going to impact their financial stuff.
Right.
She's investing, and she's got a lot of investing that she's doing outside of her retirement. And so she needs that person in her court that can share with her the best investing strategies that are not the things that I serve, right? Like I don't serve those needs, but to help them build that foundation and to create those habits now that are going to serve them well later,
Mhm.
is so 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 great. And then they're like, oh, when we have a money question later, we're going to come back to you, like, because we know that you know how to do the nuts and bolts and the building blocks, and we have these like crossroads of when we might need a question
Mhm.
that we want to negotiate together. Like you're teaching us how to have those conversations, and if we have one of them come up, we want you to be able to help us like get through that question in case we don't know how to talk to
Mm.
each other about it.
And that actually brings up another question. So you have this role. I mean, we talked at the beginning, you play so many different roles: financial therapist, financial coach, financial counselor. Do you find yourself kind of doing a little bit of couples therapy when you work with couples and kind of helping that, when they're having money stress in their lives or they're disagreeing about money? Is that something that you can help with?
Yeah, so I grew up in a situation where we didn't talk about money ever. We
Mhm.
never talked about money. And except that it was really stressful. That's all I
Mhm.
really kind of knew, that it was really stressful. So for me, when I talk to couples, my husband and I openly talk about money. I've been noted to be a loud budgeter. So I don't mind talking about money. My husband and I talk about money, about every little aspect of it. So teaching other people how to do that in a healthy way and in a safe environment is so important. And sometimes I'll even get couples they come to me, he has one idea, she has one idea, and they don't even talk to each other. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, how do we progress in our relationship if we're not even talking about money? Because one of the things I tell most of my couples, probably pretty much all my couples and my single people as well, is how you spend your time and where you spend your money tells me your priorities. It doesn't just
Mhm.
tell me as your helper, right? As your professional helper, what your priorities are. It tells you what your priorities are too, because it's telling you where you're spending all those things, and
Mhm.
those are your
Mhm.
precious resources. And so bringing these couples together, I feel like it also expands their relationship, because then they can start to dream and plan together, and it's going to
Mhm.
show up in their money, and it's going to show up on their schedule as well, where they're going
Mhm.
to start to make some changes together. And when they
Mhm.
make them together, whether they're doing their money together or separately, in different buckets, or together in one bucket, talking about what they want to both accomplish is going to give them those things where they're going to be on the same page. They're going to be going for the same goals, so that it'll help. I think it helps in other areas as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my husband and I, we have been together for 8 years, just as of like a weekend or two ago. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And we have always had a very, I would say, very strong, happy relationship. And I always attribute it to the fact that we always have shared goals and we agree on how we're going to reach those goals. And I just think that that's such an important foundation. So to have a professional who can come in and help you identify those from a financial perspective, I think is just invaluable because it's all so intertwined. And this is, oh, go ahead.
No, people don't even realize it. Like,
Right.
people don't even realize it. I have another young couple that I started working with, and they've been married for 3 years, and they didn't talk about money.
Hmm.
And when they put their money together, she was surprised that she had more debt than he had,
Mm.
because they hadn't even talked about money, and
Hmm.
they weren't doing their money together. One of them wanted to, he wanted to, she didn't want to. They started doing their money together because that's something that he wanted to do. And so I talked them through different ideas about how to do that. And they could decide then, which process worked best for them. And after several months, they've come back and they're like, our relationship is so different.
Yeah.
Our relationship is so different. And we paid off all of that debt, right? Like, we
Yeah.
paid off all the debt, and our relationship is so different. And now it's like teaching them some of those other skills, because now we got the elephant out of the room. Those
Hmm.
questions, those wondering, there are things that they're wondering about the other person but don't know how to ask. And
Hmm.
so I just come in, I kind of ask the questions just because that's who I am. I just kind of openly ask the questions, and then they just look at each other and they start to answer, and they're like, checking each other. But they know that it's in a safe environment. I'm there to help mediate, moderate that conversation, and literally just ask them the questions, so that they, without even necessarily knowing what they don't know about the other person.
Right.
And then, give them some things to work on, some things to do. And then through that, they're at a place as well. This other young couple, it's two young couples I'm working with. This other young couple is at a place where they're going to need another professional that can come alongside them and help them. They asked me for a tax person because they had some tax questions that I couldn't
Hmm.
answer. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
you need a tax person. Here's, some resources for a tax person that fits the things that you need. Like, here's a place to look for some, for a good tax person. I'm
Right.
not sending them one person, but I'm like, here's a place to go look for, go figure out which one works best for your situation. But these are all vetted, professionals. So
Right.
I think it's important, because as they move along, and as I move from here to there, they move from here to there, that sort of a thing, right? Like I may or may not work with everyone virtually, or they may feel like they've outgrown me. To give them that foundation of a how do you find a professional? How do you find someone that's going to work with you, that works, that thinks, that has the same thoughts that you are, that's there for you, that's not trying to sell you a bunch of products that you don't necessarily want or need.
Mhm.
How do you find a fiduciary that has your best interest in mind? How do you find someone that, when you get to that next level and you need, say, a lawyer or somebody like that, how do you find the one that works best for you in that, in a situation, to create a trust or to create a
Mhm.
business information? Like, there's all those things that building that solid foundation, I think, at home and within their
Mhm.
own conversations, that as they move forward and need other professionals, that like they're just going to exponentially help them in the future.
Right. Well, and it's the couples who don't have that foundation that end up in their financial advisor's office arguing in the advice. I know I've had a financial advisor tell me about this story when the couple just started arguing and he didn't know what to do, right? Because that's not his area of
Right.
expertise to deal
Or they end
with
up in the
things like
divorce
that.
lawyer's office, right? Like, that's
Right.
they and then
Or
we then we compound it because they never had these conversations to begin with.
right.
Now one of the spouses doesn't know what's going on financially, and then also after we go through that process, when we're looking at it, you know the situation may not be equal because one spouse took care of everything and
Mhm.
didn't give access or give the full picture to the other spouse. And so the spouse doesn't understand what they're doing. They don't know what to do going forward.
Right.
um, so, empowering both couples, both people in a situation with the information, even if one is stronger and, stronger taking care of things, but involving both of them in the conversation is so, so important.
Yeah, I mean, it brings to mind for me, I hear so many advisors talk about, especially on LinkedIn, talk about, the widow who she's a widow, she's grieving. I mean, it can happen to men too, but let's be real,
Yeah,
it's mostly women. And she has no idea what the financial situation is, has no idea if she's going to be okay.
right,
And so, yeah, and it all comes down to, did these couples have these conversations early on to start
right.
thinking about it?
Yeah, I know an older couple that, well, they weren't older, but they were
Mhm.
in their 60s, we'll
Okay.
say, and he unexpectedly died, and she was freaking out. Both
Mhm.
professionals, both had, they both were making over six figures when they had retired. They were both financially doing very well, a nice house, nice cars, nice things, right vacations, all the other stuff. He took care of everything.
Mhm.
And when he died, she didn't know where anything was.
Right.
She had no idea where to find all the information. And then she realized he had canceled one of his life insurance policies was going to re-up, and he was like, "We're fine
Mm.
financially. We don't need that." Well, then she was like, "Wait, I was expecting that if he died, right?" So they
Mhm.
really hadn't had the conversations. He thought he was doing well by taking care of his wife and loving on his wife and providing that space that she didn't have to worry about it or stress about it. She was buying whatever she wanted, and and everything was getting paid. But when he died, she had no idea what to do. I mean,
Right.
she ended up being fine, but through that, she was still very, very stressed. And
Mhm.
through the funeral process, the grieving process, that year process, right, especially afterwards, she was really, really petrified that she wasn't going to be able to make ends meet because she didn't know where everything was and
Yeah.
how the financial house had been functioning. And he just
Yeah.
thought he was doing a good job, right? He was just there loving on her and taking care of her, so she didn't have to worry about it. There was no abuse. It was not toxic or anything like that. It was just
Right.
how he was showing her he loved her.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of financial professionals talk about this concept of holistic financial wellness. And I think that different professionals have different definitions of what holistic financial advice is. Can you tell me what holistic financial wellness means to you and also like how it differs from what it might mean to a financial advisor?
So I think that, well, because I'm like, there are different perspectives on it. There's such different perspectives on, like, what does it mean to be holistically,
Mhm.
financial holistic wellness? Like, what does that mean? Um, and so I think initially it comes down to perspective.
Mhm.
I think the perspective of the professional is, and the person, right? Like, it's like, the client, the professional, it's all on perspective on what does that mean in general. What does holistic financial wellness mean? At the ground root of it, I think that it just is the client is achieving what they want in all their areas of in their financial world.
Mm.
They have their emergency fund done. They have their debts either paid off or under, minimum of what they feel like is, what they can afford. That's not stressing them out. Um, they have their investments working where it's kind of automated. They have an investment person that might be they're working with and that sort of a thing. Their retirement's on track. Their house or their home situation is where they want it to be. And at the end of the day, for me, when I say someone has it's financially secure, financial wholeness, wellness, that sort of holistic wellness, that sort of a thing, they have peace at the end of the day that the money coming in, the money going out is providing them their future plans is all giving them the peace that they want today and for their future.
Mm.
And along that path, if something comes out of place, we might need to tweak it. We might need to work it. If there's an emergency of some sort, we may need to rework a plan. And knowing who to bring in, when to bring them in, where to bring them in. And again, I said at the beginning, but who that's going to serve them with what their journey is and what their goals are, not whatever the professional's goals are. It's really about whatever the client's goals are. So getting them a team of people that's supporting them. And it may even include a mental health professional, right? It may include the lawyer. It may include the CFP. It may include the tax person, a business person. It could include obviously a financial coach, counselor, educator, financial therapist, if we're stressing about money. There's lots of professionals that can come alongside of them to help them achieve that holistic wellness.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about how I think specifically CFPs and AFCs can really work together to best serve a client. How do you see that playing out in your work?
I like to build a foundation with my clients. A lot of my clients that come to me are working in a situation where they're financially stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal is to kind of work myself out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help them build their foundation. I want to help them build to understand their money habits, their behaviors, understand their money scripts, address any financial trauma that they may have that's attached to how they are spending or saving too much, right? We can be on both sides of that, and both of those could be an issue for them. And then to give them the literacy piece of all of that, of their financial literacy, so that they can then use that information when they get to the point to go work with a CFP. Because when they know what they're doing in their home and what they're doing in their when their financial foundation is built, taking that and then going to work with a CFP that's going to be able to help them invest and learn about investing and planning for their future and tax strategies and all that other stuff is going to be just the next step for them. It's not going to be that there's going to be a learning curve, but they're going to already have built a lot of those habits and things like that so that they know that they're secure in what they're doing going forward.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, sometimes we get someone that is with a CFP that isn't really ready to start doing that. Or maybe they are investing and they have the money going in and they think, okay, this is what I'm doing. But at home, they're making other decisions that they're deciding okay, I have to invest, but I'm also in all this debt. So how do I balance that? And so then bringing them into the conversation of saying, let's look at this again and see how do we fit that goal of investing or in doing that other thing with your money? How do we fit that into your overall picture of things?
Mm-hmm.
I think that CFPs are, I think more and more of the CFPs that I'm working with are aware that the money habits and the behaviors are affecting, the investment side of things, because it's also going to affect how secure or how risky they want to be, how how conservative they want to be with their investing and things like that. And
Mm.
it may or may not be good for them at depending on their age and what stage they're in. If they're younger, but they're really insecure on their money, they may want to be more conservative. And that might cost them later on. And a CFP would be able to share that with them and vice versa, right? If we haven't saved and now we're say into our 50s and we haven't saved a lot with our retirement because of the other choices we've made, it could be that we're really aggressive and potentially it could be too aggressive for them.
Mhm.
And, again, having a relationship with the CFP while we're working with them simultaneously, we can balance those two things. We can help to
Mhm.
balance what they're doing, what we're working on. Um, and I think a lot of times it opens up, like the CFP can ask some questions and they may not have time, or it may not be
Mhm.
their niche to actually answer some of those questions. Or in a lot of cases, right, a CFP may have a higher fee than I may have.
Mhm.
And so because of that, right, like I can come and I can build those foundations for them and answer a lot of those questions that the CFP may not have time for, or may not be in their scope, or maybe it may be even more expensive for them to ask them versus asking me.
Right. I mean, one thing that I hear CFPs complaining about all the time is, they put together this great plan for their clients. You're going to coast to retirement. And then their clients don't follow the plan, right? They go out and buy the big car, or
Right.
they don't pay down the credit card debt when, they said initially, I will pay down the credit card
Right.
debt, or whatever it might be. And I see your role just being kind of invaluable there at taking away some of that frustration for the CFP because you're there to help them change the behaviors.
Yeah. And a lot of CFPs, they'll check in throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
But my services and what a lot of AFCs do, a lot of financial coaches and counselors, what we do is we check in with them more often.
Yeah.
We're here to be an accountability for them. We're here to walk them through the steps, and not necessarily daily, but it
Mm-hmm.
could be weekly or even monthly, whereas instead of like quarterly. And so as we see them fall off the track a little bit, we can help guide them back on sooner than like a 6-month checkup or something like that. Or if they say
Mm-hmm.
this is what we want, then we have to go, okay, this is what your budget or what you can do in your stuff. And we're following up with them a little more often to say, yeah, well, that extra eating out, that extra vacation, those things are actually going to be taking away from this other thing because you're not going to be able to afford that later. You're not going to be able to keep investing, or you're going to start, you're starting to build up more debt than you said you had wanted and that sort of a thing. So we're able to have our eyes on the inner workings of everything so that a CFP can have their eyes on the bigger picture of a
Mm-hmm.
bigger overview of what they're looking for or looking at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, for financial professionals who are listening, who want to start expanding the referral network, what are some things that they should look for when they're, looking for AFCs to refer, or what are some ways that they can go about that?
So on our AFCPE website, we have Find an AFC where
Mhm.
you can look for accredited financial counselors in your space. You can find them. A lot of them are listed if they have their own website, if they have their own. You can check them out on their website. You can see what kinds of things that they focus on. Um, Several AFCs are also dual hatted with other professionals. So that's always a nice thing when we have an AFC that's also a CFP, and um, finding someone that's in that niche. Because if you're only a CFP and you're looking for an AFC, you may have a fellow CFP that also is an AFC, and maybe they have capacity to serve the client with both hats on as
Mhm.
well, but they may not. But because they're in the AFC world and they probably know some other people that might be able to serve that also have the same mindset and that could help the
Mhm.
clients as well.
Mhm.
We also have a symposium once a year that we go to, and all professionals are invited to come to that. And it does, we do continuing education, but we learn about coaching, counseling, educator. We have researchers that are there. We have other professionals, several CFPs that actually come to that, tax people come to that. So it's not just for AFCs, it's also to learn more about what we're doing. And then we also have webinars through AFCPE. We also have webinars that we go to for future for continuing education, and other people are also invited to listen in on those. And those are usually, you can see those available online and then decide. There's also, you can become a member of AFCPE without being an AFC. So we have several certified financial planners that are also they're members of AFCPE. And so that membership will get them their their continuing education webinars that we offer, some collaboration time within some of the other workshops and things that are offered on AFCPE also. So it's a great way to collaborate. One of the ways that I personally collaborate with CFPs is I attend other webinars that are not just for AFCs. And then if available, I let the room know that, like, this is what I do that's different than just being a CFP or a tax professional. So I try to attend webinars where we have mixed professionals, and then to share the value of the AFC and how, like, we can collaborate with one another in a capacity that we're not competing for clients or anything like that, but we're just complementing one another with trying to meet the client where they are with what they want to do so that they can be the most successful at the end of the day.
Oh, that was such a great list, Heidi. Thank you so much. I love that. And if people want to connect with you personally, where's the best places to find you?
I am on LinkedIn, Heidi Clemons. You'll find me there. And you can find me on my website at HeidiClemons.com.
Amazing. Well, I will link to both of those in the show notes.
Thank you.
And Heidi, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing so much great information.
Thanks for having me. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.